Hey, what's up? We got a good episode this week. We had Matty Benedetto come on the podcast. He's the evil genius behind Unnecessary Inventions. Matty talks about his journey from entrepreneurship to becoming a content creator and gets into all those nitty-gritty details of coming up with unnecessary inventions. Also, we have a sponsor this week, and I'm pretty excited about this one because I feel like it's been my secret power for the past several months. It is Almond School of Design's Essential Keyshot Materials pack by Sean Wellens. You might know Almond School of Design from my VR course. Well, Sean released a keyshot material pack that's simply beautiful, especially for someone like me who doesn't want to spend a ton of time rendering, but really likes and really enjoys a nice, crisp render. I mean, these materials I've used on everything from, recently the hay bale sofa to my plastic chair concept. I mean, the materials are so meticulously crafted, and it's just so simple for anyone to just drag and drop on there. I gotta say, it's been a game changer for me. And the greatest part about this is Almond School of Design is offering 10% off to Minor Details listeners. So go check it out in the link in our description and use the promo code Minor Details, all caps, one word, for 10% off. Thanks again to Almond School of Design. Of course, you all know the deal. Like, subscribe, give us those 5-star reviews, share it with a friend, word of mouth. And feel free to email us, minordetailspodcast@gmail.com, if you have a question for the podcast or a suggestion. And yeah, let's hit that amazing intro by KYOSHY the Kid. Hey, welcome to Minor Details. I'm Nick.
I'm James.
And I'm Matty.
And we're 3 designers in the big city.
Sweating the small stuff.
We are super excited to have Matty Benedetto on the podcast today, founder and most notably the guy from Unnecessary Inventions.
Thank you for having me.
Matty, it's great.
Evil Genius. That's like kind of the title I go by is Evil Genius.
Well, we should have had 3 evil geniuses in the big city.
Sweating the unnecessary stuff.
It's wonderful to have you in the city, Matty, and it's great to turn a internet friend into a real friend.
I know, chatting in the DMs, brought it to the real world. Here we are.
Well, I know we have a lot of listeners that are fans of you as well, so I think we kind of want to get a little bit of your backstory, but we got a lot of questions. We want to hear your thoughts on all kinds of interesting topics around design versus unnecessary inventions. What do you think about that? But maybe we'll just start off with a little bit of your backstory, because I know you grew up outside of the city, but you are a pretty avid entrepreneur. You've had several businesses before you did Unnecessary Inventions. So,
yeah. So I grew up outside New York City, and I grew up skiing up in the Adirondacks my whole life. And my kind of real kickstart of, I guess, designing things and starting a business was I was 13 years old, and my mom taught me how to crochet hats. One Christmas. So I started crocheting hats, making them for my friends at the mountain up in the Adirondacks, and did that for a year or two, and I made a website. This was, so time frame context, this was 2003, so early internet.
Okay.
Made a website, and you could then make what you wanted your hat to look like, and I would crochet it. And I was in the sort of niche of freestyle skiing. So did that for a year of crocheting my hands off after high school. And then when I was 15, I switched it over and I started manufacturing the hats in China. So went from custom designing each individual hat.
Wait, how old were you?
15.
Okay.
And people are like, how'd you do it? I'm like, I don't remember. I just remember not telling them how old I was.
I don't know if even Alibaba was around.
It was madeinchina.com.
Okay, wow.
And it was made-in-china.com. I remember that much of it. And it was, similar layout to what Alibaba is now, but went from individual hats to then designing a set collection, and then launching. We good there?
Technical difficulties.
Designing a set collection like each winter of hats and stuff like that. And so then over the next few years, like I sponsored the athletes in X Games and became friends with
Wait, you sponsored the X Games?
the athletes, like the freestyle skiers in the X Games and stuff like that.
That's pretty crazy.
Did events, sponsored events too. Not as big as the X Games, but and then like in the summer I would do off collections of like apparel, sunglasses, stuff like that, because people aren't buying winter beanies in the summer.
Was there anybody like entrepreneurial in your family that was like guiding you in any way, or was this all self-motivated?
So both sides of my family. So my parents, my dad's side of my family, very entrepreneurial in New York City, trash hauling and real estate in New York City. And then my mom's side of the family, my grandfather started a Greyhound-esque bus company. So I guess, you know, the general vibe. So it's like my parents, that's the one thing is that like growing up, there was no like, if I wanted to just go do something, my parents just let me go do it. There was never like a roadblock of them me not wanting to talk to people in China when I was 15 years old to get hats made. And my mom, we had a Yukon XL, and we drove down to the port here in New York. I don't even know where it was, and to like go pick up the hats off the shipping container. And it's like a line of like 18 wheelers, and then like our Suburban, we're like, "Hi, we're here to pick up the hats." They're like, "Where's your bill of lading? Where's all?" And we're like, "I don't know." And we just barely fit all. We finally got it, and we just barely fit all the hats in the Yukon XL, and we drove it back to my house, and I shipped orders out of my room in my house, and so it was just sort of.
That's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane that was so early too.
Right.
Like
it was
2003, 2004.
Yeah. So I started. So the manufacturing in China was like 2005, 2006.
Okay.
And so then when I graduated high school, I moved up to Vermont to go to college, and so I told them ahead of time that I had this business going on. And so when I moved in my freshman year into my dorm, they gave me an office. So I moved into my dorm and my office the same move-in weekend
The
college.
The college gave
And
you
they
an
were
office.
like, "Here's the keys to the college Porsche."
And so I had a office on campus all 4 years of college that by then, you know, there's no ports up in Vermont. So like 18 wheelers would show up on campus and unload my whatever that winter collection of hats and apparel and all that stuff would just get like dropped on campus, and I would have to bring it up to my office.
That's wild. That's, that's very nice of them to just give you an office.
Right.
at the
Well, I paid utilities. I think it was like I paid like $92 a month or something for the office.
Did you have office hours where you saw other students to help them?
I didn't have that. It was like kind of like on a remote part of campus that people probably didn't even know that there were offices over there. So it was probably leftover
You're
space.
embellishing. It was the
It was like
lawn care shed.
It was 250 square feet. It was, you know, it had some.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I did that and through college and.
And you turned it into, I believe, Eastern Collective?
Right, yeah. So it
was
started it like kind of slowly morphed over time. So when I was like first doing the crocheted hats, it was called East Coast Headwear. And then when I like transitioned it to the collection base, then it was just called EC Headwear. And then towards the end of college, I like rebranded again to Eastern Collective, taking the EC and just sort of making it a new name.
But this was all about like phone accessories, right?
Right, yeah. So that was right when I graduated college. So basically,
Why pivot? Why pivot from like outerwear to phone accessories?
I think my brain is just like always jumping from one thing to the next, and it's like I'm and just like kind of that I just like I'm a doer. So it's like I have the idea in my head, and I'm like, okay, well I want to make it now. So I transitioned that from ski clothing business, and it was sort of like I just sort of soft launched it in the summer of like, you know, because in the summer I sort of randomly sold other products. So I sold these iPhone cables that were wrapped in fabric and had all designs. So I was basically the first person to do that for iPhone cables, was wrapping them in fabric.
Wow.
Applied for a whole bunch of patents, did not get approved any of the patents.
Wait, why were they not approved?
They said the drawings weren't round enough.
Interesting.
And I had like a patent, so I don't even know what that meant.
Wait, what
they
does
just
that mean?
They just said that it didn't look like a round enough cable in the patent drawing, and they denied them. And so we're like, do we redraw them? Like, how do we make them more round looking?
Oh, that's wild.
So that business, so I sort of launched those cables, and then in the first month, like so now we're at 2012 by now. This was like big uncrate days, like, so I got on there and I sold more in cables in 1 month that I did all year in hats.
Insane.
So I was like, I'm not doing hats anymore.
Okay. That makes sense now.
And so, yeah, that business blew up for the next couple years. I mean, it was everywhere. I had a custom collection with J. Crew. I designed all the in-flight tech accessories for Qatar Airlines. It was sold in Restoration Hardware, Urban Outfitters, Zoomies, PacSun, kind of all those stores.
That's wild.
And still, one-man show through the whole thing. Still just packing orders.
And somehow we keep going. You keep inventing new businesses.
Yep. And then 2015 came along, and it was like the market then was pretty saturated. That like a bunch of companies were now making fabric cables, and I did headphones and I did cases. So kind of using the background from the textiles, all the accessories had some form of textile in it, just to. The inspiration behind it. But then in 2015, I decided to launch another business called Sondre Travel, because I was just like, I want to design something new. And so I literally just like was typing in on Amazon just like random product categories, and I one day just typed in travel pillows. I'm like, travel pillows suck. Like, who wants to walk around with those like huge pillows on their neck?
You look like a nerd when you do that. Yeah.
And so I designed a small, compact travel pillow that sort of was just like a little tiny pillow that had a spandex band that you could use as a eye cover as well, and you could wrap it around the seat. You could do all sorts of stuff. And so I launched that on Kickstarter, and I've been interested in Kickstarter just to like see the economics of how it works and all that stuff. So that was 2016. I launched that on Kickstarter.
Which is, I think that's pretty early for Kickstarter too, right?
Yeah, it was still still kind of heyday. I think, the first kind of big ones were probably like 2011, 2013. Okay. And then, so it did like 125K in the month on Kickstarter. Wow. So I was like, okay, I guess I got something here. So then that business was sort of like built around Kickstarter drops. So I would do like 2 a year. So I did 6 Kickstarter drops, and then I would do like smaller products in between. So I did travel bags that were like carry-on bags. I did a beach chair. And then I was getting ready to launch like this whole big like 5-piece collection. And then I came up with my first unnecessary invention and posted it online. And then like I had a couple blow up, and I was like, okay, forget all the e-commerce stuff. I'm going to try to be a content creator.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wait, so can you talk?
You literally lived an entire person's career in like 5 years.
I am curious. I definitely think I want to focus a lot on the invention side of things. I'm curious what the very first, like, what was that first validation of, I need to stop doing traditional entrepreneur businesses and start doing this content creation thing? Like, what was the exact invention, and why did you just drop it all of a sudden?
It was, so let's see, it was, I was maybe like 20 inventions in. So there were 2 that like went super viral back to back.
Do you remember what they were?
It was the cuisine curtain, which goes in your nose, and then it was a curtain for people that eat with their mouth open.
Okay. So
it covers it. And so back then, so I wasn't doing all the like kind of TikTok-y videos. Everything was just photo-based. So it's kind of crazy to think of like how many like news articles were written about just like a photo.
Right.
It was that one, and then it was avocado on a stick, which was like, it looked like a deodorant thing, and you twisted it, and the avocado came out. Yeah. So it was like kind of those 2 back to back, and I was just like, and I like super YouTube watcher. Like I watch way more YouTube than traditional TV and all that stuff. So it's like I already knew the potential of like these people could make a ton of money just doing content. So basically at that point, I just put everything on Amazon, and I was like, all right, whatever, I'm not ordering any more products. So I was still doing the cables. So like I still had the cables going, and then I had the travel products. And so I just put everything on Amazon and just like put it basically on autopilot and just like let the inventory run out on Amazon. So it's like I still had sales coming in, but I just didn't have to actually physically pack orders and do marketing and stuff like that. And I just like hustled because I knew by the fall I wanted to put out a book that was 101 unnecessary inventions. So it's like I got to 100 inventions by like the first like 7 months of doing it.
Okay. I don't remember the book. And I guess it sold out, or what?
Yeah. I'm working on like another one.
1,000 inventions.
Right.
How many are you up to now?
Somewhere over 350 or so. I
pretty
think.
wild.
So it'll be
You could do a calendar soon.
right, a calendar of
One a day.
calendars. Yeah. And so the big pivotal moment was when I got my first brand deal. That was like money actually was really coming in. So I started Unnecessary around March. That's when the first
What year was this again?
2019.
Okay, so I do want to have an anecdote here because James and I shouted you out on the podcast in 2019. I don't know the exact months. I want to say I look back. I think it was episode 61 because I did some research for this podcast. I think it was in summertime. So
Didn't you guys used to do like shout outs at the end of your episodes of like stuff you had seen that?
Yeah.
So you got shouted
You're
out.
welcome.
We made your career is what we're saying.
Yeah, and it's like we were talking about this earlier of like when I found you on Instagram and stuff like that, and he probably shared something on his stories of yours, and that's when I found it. But yeah, it's crazy how long it's been. It'll be 4 years in a month or so that I've been doing it all.
I mean, you've blown up now. I mean, it's like what you got 6 million people on TikTok. Is TikTok your biggest now?
Numbers wise, yeah. So
Okay.
TikTok, it's like 6.2 million, I think.
Okay.
Views wise, I probably get a little more views on YouTube.
Interesting. Okay.
But I do about like anywhere from 150 to 200 million views a month across everything.
It's insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, what was like? Was there an itch that you were scratching when you were like, okay, I want to like, what inspired you to do the first post to begin with, like your first unnecessary invention?
Yeah, so I had the very first one. So they were chopsticks for your AirPods. It was like AirPods were still kind of new. People were still making fun of the design of it, and so I made chopstick extensions for it. So if you like go out and eat sushi, you can just like pop them out and use them. And I had the idea in my head for a while. So like I was already doing the tech accessory brand. So like I had the idea of wanting to do that for like an April Fool's joke or something. And it's like I never made the sample in China and all this stuff, and like doing that can take a couple months and all that stuff. So I bought a month before I posted it, I bought my first 3D printer because Chinese New Year happened, so all the factories are shut down, so I couldn't manufacture like my other inventory for my businesses, and it's after Christmas, so it's kind of slow. So I just bought that and posted it, and it went front page on Reddit, the very first one. So I was like, oh, I got something here.
So Reddit was the very first like viral sensation.
Yeah, so the first one was the AirPods. Posted that on Reddit, made the front page, and then I took the comments. Someone was like, "Oh, I hate tying my jacket around my waist and looking like a loser. So I need something different." So then I the second invention was based on that one person's idea, and I was like, "Hey, I'm that guy from a few days ago," and someone in the group in the comments wanted me to make this, so I made it. So it's like just trying to like parlay the success of the first one into the second one, and then it was probably around like the 10th invention that I like came up with the name Unnecessary Inventions, started the Instagram, and then tried to like slowly siphon people away from Reddit to start building out the social channels.
I think I pinged our community on Discord, and they were kind of curious a little bit about if you took any inspiration from Chindogu, which is like I guess it comes from Japan, the art of unnecessary inventions. I don't even know. There's probably a better word for it, but
right, they call it more like useless design. So I didn't know about it at first.
Okay.
So like when I posted those first couple ones on Reddit, like everyone was like calling it out on there. So then that's when I looked into it. There's like 5 books. And he invented the selfie stick. Like it's like it's like a disposable camera on the end of a stick. Like, and there's a couple and so the avocado on a stick, he has you probably have seen the photo. It's butter like in a glue stick.
Oh, okay.
So that's from Chindogu.
Right.
So that was like sort of the inspiration from that. So like early on, like when I didn't have ideas, I would like flip through it just to like kick my brain in that direction. At this point now, it's like my brain's just like totally wired to just like invention.
Just walking down the street.
Right.
I mean, I would love to maybe pick your brain a little bit, get into some of the details around how you come up with these ideas. How do you sort them? How do you make them? And we can get into like the details of how you create the content, because I feel like that's maybe even more of the story than actually the invention itself. But yeah, I want to hear like do they just come to you? Like you just walking down the street that just pops in your mind, or do you sit down and list out a bunch of things and sort through them? How does that work?
It's definitely a mix. Probably more times it's things that'll just like, I'll be sitting somewhere and something happens and it triggers an idea. It's every now and then that like, so like, because I'm not in like one specific niche that like I'll try and like spread it out. So it's like, I'll do an iPhone invention, then I'll do a food invention, then I'll do a clothing invention. And so in my phone, I'll try and just like, anytime I have an idea, I just write it down. Even if sometimes I'll even just like have a product name, because a lot of them are like alliterations.
Okay.
And so it's like, I'll write down the product name. I'm like, there's got to be something behind this alliteration I just thought of. Or even if I don't have an invention idea and I see someone do something in public, I just like write down the story of like what I just witnessed. Because I'm like, there's probably an invention here. I don't know what it is yet, but like I want to remember this person doing this thing a weird way that I don't do it. And then also, I mean, it's nice to my community. So I do like the Sunday inspiration sessions on my Instagram stories. So I'll pick a topic and people can submit ideas. And it's like kind of a nuance of like what is an unnecessary invention. So that's like one or two good ideas for every 5,000 that gets submitted. But I'll write down the person's name and give them credit for submitting it and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's like totally different. And then sometimes, you know, it's like I'll think about, you know, it's like I've done like a bunch of tech ones. So I'm like, all right, I got to do something different. And I'll like maybe start working on that. But like, if I have an idea in my head, I'm like, I need to make this right now. Like this isn't one that's going in the notebook. Like this is the next one I have to make.
Okay.
That happens every now and then too.
Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, I was going to ask you, like, is your process like you have the idea and you just like work on it until you create the video, or do you have multiple like irons in the fire?
It's pretty much only one at a time.
Yeah.
The only time it's multiple is when I'm doing like brand deals and I'm doing like a invention collaboration with a brand. So it's like that takes longer because also like approvals with the brand and blah, blah, blah. So it's like I'll be working on that in the background, but it's like I'm never working on like a invention post invention like more than one at a time. It's like I start the one, bang it out, get it posted, then it's like right on to the next one.
I'm kind of curious about, like, obviously you did sort of the more quote unquote traditional design development before you got into this. How much does your process differ in terms of like creating a thing, like between those two worlds?
I would say it's more technical now. I mean, it's like, and to me, it's like can be super easy to make a product in China. Like I was never making like tech packs. I was just like the first hats I drew in Microsoft Paint and was like, make these, and they
We gotta
did.
find that photo of that. That's hilarious.
It's just like it was just like stripes. I was like stripe here, stripe here. I didn't even tell them the size of the stripes. They just made them, and so like now it's definitely more. I mean, because I'm doing a lot more like CAD work and stuff like that, and like physically 3D printing all the parts now. So it's probably more just technical, and I'm like going through the process a little more systematically, I guess.
That's funny. It's like you're almost saying like now it's almost more of a professional development process than when you were developing a commercial product.
And you just go straight to CAD, no sketching?
Yeah, I've never.
No designing. Is there any revisions?
I would say the only revisions are like, so like I see the invention in my head and then I like jump straight into CAD and just like bring that image to life. The like, the way invention, if it has to like move and like parts have to fold, it's like my brain is thinking it folds one direction and then I'm like in CAD and I print it. I'm like, oh wait, it's supposed to fold the opposite direction.
Okay.
So it's like, that's when like, it'll be like it's more the functionality of it maybe didn't line up with what my brain thought it was going to function like.
And you have to do a few versions of that.
Yeah. Okay. And so, I mean, it's like now and it's also nice that like the audience size I built is that like 3D printers just show up at my office like every week. So it's like I think like 19 set up right now.
Hey, if you ever run
I have 4 in the box that I haven't opened yet.
run out of space. We can use some 3D printers too. That's pretty wild. I think I'm curious to hear a little about like your thoughts, maybe from a design perspective, on how you view your inventions. I mean, they are a different way of, I guess, telling a story. And, as designers, we like slave over creating this beautiful object in hopes that the object kind of tells a story. But you're almost doing the opposite, where the object's a prop to a performance. Like, how do you feel about the performance almost being more important than the design itself? Like, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and I think that's probably going to college for marketing. Okay. That like, and I think that's also part of the reason why Unnecessary blew up is like the package I created of Unnecessary, like coming up with the product name, having the sort of like signature, photo style at the beginning of the deadpan eyes and stuff like that, into the like the cheesy infomercial kind of vibe of the commercials. It's like I definitely, and that's a lot more like as I'm filming it, like I'm thinking about what that finished package looks like, probably more than what the product actually looks like. That like I'll cut the corners to get the video out if the product isn't working. I'm like, all right, I'll just edit it to make it look like it does the thing I said it does, versus trying to perfect the product
right
to be the best product it can be. I'm thinking more of like, how can this final video be the best final video it could be of the product?
Oh yeah, like what are some good examples of that? I feel like I want to say like the Lego vacuum.
Yep, that one actually did kind of work.
It actually functioned.
Yep, I had to bring that on a TV show, so that one
okay.
that we did work when we actually tested it out.
It
Simon Cowell took it home with him.
It sorted the Legos too, right?
It did, yeah. So it's like that general design of it has been done in a few different iterations. So I like took the inspiration from other people that have done similar type things. But yeah, it for the most part sorted them.
That's wild. I mean, also, I do want to touch on this aspect that you enjoy going on television, which is crazy to think about, that you're on our podcast right now, our small little minor details.
I enjoy doing it. I mean, it's fun. It's fun to like, it validates the outside just doing Instagram and TikTok. And
I guess like the interesting thing from my viewpoint is your platform is so huge that it's almost like you are giving the television show a leg up. Like you are bigger than the television show.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of work going into it. That like my YouTube short, TikTok, all that like would probably get more views than that TV show's getting.
But it's a different audience too.
Right, it's a
like
totally different.
I feel like you're expanding your audience. You have such a great medium or style that appeals to so many audiences, right? Young kids, older adults. It's like everyone can sit down and love a good unnecessary invention.
and my viewpoint is I just want the most number of eyeballs on the inventions that can possibly be. So finding different avenues to get different eyeballs onto the inventions.
Well, I also love, I feel like I've watched a few of your YouTube videos where you actually intentionally you put mistakes in the videos so you can get comments.
Oh yeah, that's like for sure. And it's fun to, I mean, it's like a social engineering the comment section. Right. So it's like the most popular one was I did like a Tic Tac organizer.
Okay.
So it's like so that the Tic Tacs don't shake, and so it was like little cells that you would like divide them up. I'm like, so there's 16 on each side.
Wait. The invention was you don't want to have your Tic Tacs shaking?
Yeah.
Because they're too noisy.
Right, they're too noisy. So it like separates them all into like individual cells, so that when you're walking around and it's in your pocket, it's like totally silent.
Okay.
And so it was 16. You could do 16 on one side and 16 on the other that fit back into the Tic Tac box. And I said, so there's 16 on this side, 16 on this side. That makes 36 Tic Tacs. That video has 20,000 comments of people telling me it's 32, not 36. It's just like the low-hanging fruit that I know people are going to take to just call me out. And it's like when you're working with an algorithm, you just got to feed the algorithm what it wants.
That's why they have the evil in your evil genius.
Right, exactly.
Right? Okay.
And it's like, I'll like I did like a recently one, they were like the squatty potty slides, and like all these people were that I flushed the toilet while I'm still sitting on it, and it's all the little things that just like
It's called a courtesy flush.
and just like you just got to find those little quirks that like are just gonna piss people off.
Was it like, did you also have like the toilet paper going around the back?
That's right. And then I also like rolled it around my hand like 30 times. And so it's like just doing all those little things that like will piss people off just enough to get them to want to comment or share it or.
Oh my gosh.
Was there any content creator who was inspiring you? You said you watched a lot of YouTube. Was there anybody that like you could directly link like inspiration to, either some sort of like comedic content or even just like not YouTube, like Tim and Eric or something like that? Is there?
I mean, I would say Simone Yates, Queen of Shitty Robots.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know, she basically does a version of what I do. So I watch her videos like all the time. And so I think just that, and any just like meme creator, you know, it's like I've gotten ideas from memes and just people that, I mean, I guess I just don't take design seriously. So it's like people that want to just fuck with design and do it their own way. And just like thinking at things from like the other side of the coin.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's so powerful. I know we had an episode recently about meme design. It feels like it's our era. It feels like we, you know, Charles and Ray Eames had mid-century modern. We're
living
design.
in the memes.
And I mean, it almost to me feels like a new Memphis movement, like a new it's like postmodern or something.
And I think it's just that because we have so many of the tools to make things. It's easier than ever, I feel like, to just make something, and that like in my mind I would rather sell 100 units of 10,000 different things versus 10,000 units of the one thing. Right. You know, it's like I'd rather you can, if you make a product, you don't need to make something that has to live on forever, that like does all this stuff. It can just have its one moment and then you move on, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there are definitely examples of products that are very small runs but had a very significant kind of cultural impact. I mean, I think about a lot of like the really expensive furniture just has like one or two amazing pieces.
Or you think of like teenage engineering stuff. I feel like they just sort of like will drop something and then it's like you never see it again, I feel like.
You're super close to 3D printing. Like, do you think that you would be doing what you're doing if 3D printing was not a technology that was available?
I don't think so. You know, it's that like, I mean, it's like at all times I have like 7 printers running of just like different iterations or different colors just to like get something to work. But unnecessary also works that it's like I can just come out with so many of them that it's like it's kind of the like mystery of like how the fuck is he doing, like, and then it's like I'm not selling them on purpose because then you see one, you're like, oh, I want to buy it, then you're like, wait, I can't buy it, so that makes you like dig deeper and you're like, wait, why is he making all this stuff and you can't even buy any of it? So it's like creating the story of just like everything's been done on the internet and you have to do something that is unexpected, and what you expect me to do is sell all of these inventions I'm making. So by not selling them and just like making 5 inventions in 2 weeks, it's like the unexpected thing that then gets people interested.
Has anyone ever offered to buy one?
Well, so I've made like 15 of, I mean, it's like every day people are asking for a different one. Well, one of the, we were talking about earlier with the avocado on a stick, a avocado farm in Spain like thought it was a real product from seeing like all these news articles, and they hit me up wanting to be the avocado supplier for the avocado on a stick. And I was like, wow, it's like if I can trick people into thinking that this is a real product, maybe I can make more of them.
Well, I do wonder like if you make like, if you keep them, I almost feel like they're sculptures. It almost feels to me like each one is a piece of art. Like I wonder if anyone would buy the singular piece as like a sculpture,
like the original.
Yeah.
I could see that, and that's also like why like a lot of people also ask for my 3D design files, and I don't post them anywhere. And it's like kind of to that like if there were just like a ton of them around, it sort of loses the value in the original one.
Interesting.
Okay. So, and it's like this year I'll probably will sell more stuff. Now that I've done so many, it's like I know the hits. I know ones that like if I make 300 units is something I know I could sell them out in a week or something, and and just move on to. So this year I'll definitely be probably selling more of them.
Okay.
I gotta pay for that new office, so.
Yeah, you are moving into a new studio, so it looks amazing.
Yep, it should be fun. In about a month, I'll be moving into a new 6,400 square foot design studio.
Wild. And you're gonna put a museum in there?
And the plan, and then like kind of to that, like having the original unit that like, seeing. I mean, like I was telling you earlier, like seeing all these things I've seen on Instagram, I was like, oh wait, I'm like more excited about the museum now that like. Just seeing the thing that like knowing it exists is kind of cool. So I think people would enjoy seeing the invention in person. So like I'm also doing like these TVs next to it, so it'll be playing the commercial next to it. You get like the context of the social media video, and then also diving into the technology of it, of how I make so many of them so quickly, of having like a wall of 3D printers showing how 3D printing works, and then even maybe some sort of like photo video aspect of it, of showing people how a video of it comes to life too. So just like the full package of what makes unnecessary work.
I feel like you're what happens when like Andy Warhol meets Weird Al meets
Carrot
Thomas
Top.
Edison.
Oh man.
When you just lock yourself in a studio by yourself for 4 years, that's what happens.
Or just like Willy Wonka, I guess.
I am a little bit curious, Matty. Like, you do all this stuff by yourself. What are your plans on expanding? Is it almost? Do you feel more like an artist, or do you feel more like? Yeah, I know we were talking about Mr. Beast. You've been on a Mr. Beast video.
Yep.
Do you feel more of the composer, or who's the person that does conductor of a composer conductor?
Yeah.
It's.
Do you want to expand? I guess is.
Yeah, I guess it's the one thing I sort of struggle with it a bit, is that like my process is just like so integrated into like just myself that like I write the script and I like know the video clips I want, and then I film them, and I'm editing while I'm filming. So it's like it's not like I could film all of it and then hand it off to an editor.
Wait, how are you editing while you're filming?
So it's like every time you see like, I mean, my videos have like a ton of cuts. Just nobody has an attention span, so I have to like do a ton of cuts.
Okay.
And so like basically every time you see a video cut, I've filmed that, ditched the file onto my computer, already have it in Premiere, and cut it. And so it's like so by the time I'm done filming, the edit's also already done.
Okay, wait. This sounds wildly inefficient to me, but you're saying that you get out your invention, you say, hey guys, I designed this invention that does this thing. You stop the camera, you take the card over, put it in your computer,
Yep.
drop it into Premiere Pro or whatever, come back, and then you do the next scene.
Right.
Is that how you do it?
That's how I do it. And I guess it's to that, like the package of like, of the, what, it helps me like keep the story going the way I want, that like,
Okay.
I'm sort of crafting it as I go. But again, it's like, I'm so used to doing it that way that like, it'd be difficult to hire an editor. And it's like, all right, I'll be back with one clip. Just wait there.
Just editor sitting, waiting, getting the SD card.
Right.
I feel like there's like a good product software for that. I don't know.
Right.
That's where we need AI. Where you just plug your camera into AI software and
Like find the good cut.
cut it up just how you would like it.
Right. The one where I say complete sentences and.
Did you have a question?
Are there, I mean, like you said that you will start something and work on it till you get to the finished product, finished video. Is there a number of inventions that you started and stopped, or do you make something like work, whatever it is?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There's probably only been, I can think maybe, I don't even know what they are, but maybe one or two things that like just did not work whatsoever. I couldn't even fake it in the edit. But for the most part, it's just through, and I just get it to do what I want, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you feel the pressure to post?
A lot, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have, so I have what, like a little over like 12 million across everything. And it's that, like, I mean, my business is like very brand deal heavy.
Okay. Would you say that's the majority of your revenue?
Oh yeah, like probably 80%.
Okay.
And that, like, it doesn't look good to a brand if they like go check out my socials and I haven't posted in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or
Oh man.
You know, it can definitely, and it's like, it's just self-manufactured anxiety over posting, because it's like someone that people probably don't even know. You know, it's like the only person that really notices that I'm not posting is me. It's
Right.
like until the next invention, it's not like you're like, oh my god, it's been so long since the last one. You know, it's just like.
I mean, I'm sure you have super fans out there that are
I will get some people like in the DMs like, hey man, just want to check on you. Everything going okay? You haven't gotten an invention
It's been 2
out,
days. It's been
right?
48 hours.
So I do get those people.
Oh man. I'm curious to dig into maybe the idea of unnecessary versus necessary inventions, because I think a lot of people see some of these inventions, and some of these inventions have been knocked off.
Yep.
To actual real products. And where do you see that line? What makes you say, I don't want to make this a real product? I mean, you just mentioned you do want to start making more real products. Like, how do you break that down?
Yeah, so what I always tell people is that unnecessary doesn't mean useless. They are different words that, like, all of the inventions I make physically do something and solve some sort of problem,
Okay.
but the problem it's solving might not be a real problem, or the way it's solving the problem is 10 steps longer than if you just did it without the product.
Okay.
And so it's like, that's the thing, like when I do like the Sunday inspiration sessions, that like people just send me like pants for your pants. I'm like, but what are we solving here? You know, it's like, there still has to, like, my pants don't need another pair of pants. So it's that's the thing. It's like, it can be a weird nuance of like what actually is unnecessary, but then it's also like kind of to the crafting problems or crafting errors in my videos. It's like, then I'll like do an invention that I know like every single comment's like, wait, this isn't unnecessary. You know, it's like you still got to bait them that like those might be the ideas that I just want to make, and it's like I have this platform, so I'm going to put it out anyway.
Okay.
So it's a mix, and like making them, it's like is enough junk in the world, and I don't like the ones I'm gonna make and like actually sell and make units of them and stuff. It's like I don't want someone to get it for Christmas and be like, haha, and then like they put it on a shelf, and then in a year it gets thrown out. Like,
right.
So like the jigsaw puzzle coffee table, like I knew that would like physically live inside people's homes and like would be their coffee table and like would actually get use versus, you know.
You've added some accessories to that one.
I did
over time.
Yep, I'm slowly piecing it together with some other modular accessories.
You have like a chip bowl that fits into the puzzle piece coffee table.
Yep.
Cup holder. What else do you have on that thing?
So far we have the cup holder, we have an outlet, we have a remote stand, and the chip bowl. Yeah.
Are the accessories? Do you sell that as well, or are those?
Some people have. So let's see. I sold. So the coffee table was Kickstarter as well.
Right.
So I sold like 1,200 of those.
Like that was an actual product, like what
right.
you're saying, right?
Yep. And so I have gotten people now that
want the bowl.
Right. But now it's like kind of weird that like, so I just like randomly launched the not randomly, but I launched a table back then. This was before TikTok and all that stuff. And now there's like, I mean, so I've only done those 4 accessories. Those videos combined have like 130 million views.
That is so wild.
And so now there's like this huge demand for the table again. And so I'm like, do I make the table again? It was like kind of the worst thing ever, having a shipping container dropped off and 1,200 coffee tables to unload and then ship back out. So it's like, maybe that's when I like license it out to someone else to do it versus just having myself manage everything.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about licensing? I mean, that's honestly, licensing is the traditional inventor route.
Yeah, and I guess I just don't know it's like not a world I've explored, so it's like I don't even know the process of it. And it's like, I feel like I'm probably just too focused. It is like, when I hit post on the video and it's like up and everywhere, it can be that like, it's like out of mind. It's like, people are like, oh, what's your favorite one? I'm like, I remember the last one I did. You know, it's like, there's so many of them that like, it's almost that I'm more interested in just like thinking about what the next one is versus focusing on the ones I've already done.
Yeah. I think, well, you did a board game.
Yep.
And that's licensing, right? You licensed that.
That was a licensing deal. So that was a company that approached me about the game, and they did some games with Fuck Jerry and stuff like that with What Do You Meme. And so and it was fun. I worked with them, and we developed the game. So it's basically you get a deck of cards that have like the first world problems that I'm supposedly solving. And then you get like a dry erase board, and you have to sketch out the invention, come up with a name, a description. So it's basically similar to like what you would see on my Instagram. And then you have to like Shark Tank style, like pitch it. And then everyone votes on like who had the best solution to that problem. So we developed the game together. So that is nice that like I don't have to, they do all the sales, and
right.
It's in Barnes and Noble, and it's in like all the stores and all that kind of stuff. And I don't really have to think about it, which is nice.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the easier path is licensing, but it's not as lucrative, I would say. But it's you don't have to do much work, so it's like a give and take.
But it is a little more when it's like that they're almost more licensing my likeness,
right?
Versus,
like your brand.
So it's like I'm in charge of basically all the marketing though. So it's like I still have to promote it and all that kind of stuff. Not all of it, but like for the most, because I have the channels,
right.
It's the perfect marketing avenue for it. So it can sometimes be that like I'm so like one in, one out that like this thing that lives on forever. It can be sometimes difficult for me to get back into them. I'm like, this feels old that I've already done something about it. So it's like, it can be a little difficult for me to like get into that headspace to like have me as excited from the first time I posted it to like the fifth time I posted it, you know?
I mean, maybe that also plays into a few of the products that got knocked off, right? I think the most notable one that got knocked off was the
Rage Quit Protector.
Rage Quit Protector. They have the game controller, like inflatable, like thing, so you don't break your controller when you throw it against the wall.
Yep. And I think, and that's what's like crazy about like having the audience is like, it's like this like mini army online. It's like anytime someone like lightly copies my video, it's like I'm tagged like 200 times, and they're like, get them. So it was like, and it was like, it was a whole bunch of fans that were sending me these Walmart listings of them, and they were using my photo from my Instagram and like all this kind of stuff.
Did you ever pursue that as like from a, did you do a cease and desist, or you just said, I'm doing my own thing, I'm just keep going?
Yeah, it's difficult because it was all just like drop ship from China. Mm-hmm. So it's like they weren't even like it's like you can list anything on Walmart.com. And so it's not like they probably even knew, but it's like they don't care too much about intellectual property.
Right.
So it's like, I don't even know where you start to try and take it down. But it's like, so then thinking about it from the business aspect of my side of things is that they probably weren't getting a ton of sales. I mean, there was like 12 different Chinese drop shippers that were all selling it on Amazon. So then I made a YouTube video calling it out, and then
they got a lot of sales, I assume.
I didn't link them. Okay. So maybe, people still could have. I said I would sell it eventually. So if you wanted it, just wait until I sell it.
Okay.
Which maybe I will this year. I don't know.
All you gotta do is like go on Alibaba and just drop ship them on your website.
Right. But so I made the video sort of calling it out, but I sort of like more went into intellectual property and like kind of other products that I did that were inspired by it that like kind of showed, and then kind of showing other creators that did things that were similar to mine but weren't a direct ripoff, and like kind of showing how you can take a design but iterate on it and make it your own, all that stuff. But so that video did like 4.5 million views on. So this is like a long form, like a 10
on YouTube.
Yeah.
I think I remember watching this one.
And that video did like 30K in ad revenue. So it's like probably way more money than those drop shippers made, right. So it's like there's different ways as a creator, I think, to make money that don't necessarily just need to be selling the physical thing.
Yeah. I mean, we could wade into these waters because you know me, I'm gone down the Web3 rabbit hole, NFT rabbit hole. I know we've been pinging some ideas back and forth, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on kind of this new age of owning digital things? I mean, your work exists so there's so much value in your work as a digital format as opposed to the actual physical, 3D prints. How do you kind of parse that idea, and do you kind of see a future where maybe you do own a physical or a digital like unnecessary invention in the metaverse or something?
Yeah, I did one NFT like when it was the super craze.
Yeah.
And it was just like a GIF of one of the videos or something like
Okay.
that. And I think, I mean, I wanted to. I sort of fell down the rabbit hole a little bit too. I've sort of fallen out of it now. Of like, if you did own the NFT, you had the original physical version and all that stuff. And so yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah. Do you feel like an unnecessary invention has to result in a physical object?
Kind of. I mean, I also like designed like a whole other like similar, like one of the 10,000 NFT collections. I
Right.
designed it all and I never put it out.
I remember. Oh, we were messaging.
And so it's I don't know. It just sort of, I think I need something in the.
Well, it makes me think about performance art, right?
Well, I mean, the way Tom Sachs said it was like amazing with the rockets. Like
Yeah.
that was like I think
that
the
was-
most
yeah.
enjoyable way to do it. That like you take it, then it becomes physical.
Yeah. I'm thinking of Jan Erickson, who is a performance artist.
The guy that like breaks all the pasta and
With-
the tape
yeah.
and the.
Because all of his art exists as social media as well, right? Like that's where all the value he's created is these viral videos of him, pushing a banana against his head or some silly thing like that, right? Obviously, he's been. I remember he was doing kind of Web3 stuff back in whenever it was hyped. I don't know if he's still pursuing that or not, but I don't know. I think obviously, I think you are very creative that wants to pursue the latest technology with 3D printing, with TikTok, like whatever it is. I feel like you are pretty like early and you have a good kind of edge to you, like to kind of hop on that.
The one thing I mean, I'd be interested, and it's just like when it was first kind of picking up, it's just that like, I feel like the patent system is broken anyway. It's like, people ask me all the time if I have patents for all my inventions. It's like, do you know how much that would cost? How long it would take? Like, I would maybe have 2 of them by now in the 4 years, And it's like, is there some sort of mechanism in the NFT world to re-envision patents and the ownership of the design of something versus, going through this arbitrary process that then it's like you're only covered in the US and then it's like, all right, well then I'll go through the whole process again in Europe and then,
Right.
and
then
it's like, and
everything gets knocked off in China. So.
Right, exactly. So it's, I think I'd be interested if there was something there that like, and so also when I was originally thinking about it, that I don't sell any of the digital files, that like the NFT could be access to the digital file that if you wanted to make it yourself and all that kind of stuff. I mulled over all that stuff and
Yeah.
nothing, I guess, just came to fruition for it.
I mean, we're still in the early phases of that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about like sort of future-facing things. How far ahead in the future do you think about like where unnecessary inventions is going, or are you very much like in the moment working on the next thing?
Yeah, I'm the complete opposite of a planner. Like typically when I fly to New York, I book the hotel I'm staying at when I land at the airport.
Oh my God.
So it's like I am never I think as far ahead as the next invention. So like talking about the studio, like it's this 6,500 square foot studio. It's expensive and big, and but like when I moved into my current studio, it felt big at 2,200 square feet, and I was like, how am I going to fill this? Am I going to have enough money coming in to pay for it? Now I look back, I'm like, I couldn't imagine not moving into this place. So it's like I'm one to just like I just dive into something and figure it out versus planning out all the steps and then executing on it. So I think it's like I'm just like, and that's what's nice about Necessary, that it's like everything is the next invention and then it's done and then it's the next thing. So it's like I probably would be good to plan out ahead, but I don't.
You've rebranded. I did check your website recently today, and it said just unnecessary. Are you?
That's
kind
the
of-
store.
Okay, unnecessary is just the store.
Yeah,
Unnecessary
yeah.
Inventions is the media channels content.
Right. So So I don't even know why I did that.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you were like.
I had unnecessary.co
rebranding
and I was like, oh, it's a cool domain name. So I was like, I'll use it. But
Do you have a dream? Like, you're not a planner, I get, but you must have some dream for, I don't know, the overarching, goal of unnecessary invention.
Not really, no.
just
I'm
just
just-
enjoying the day to day.
yeah. And I'm like, that's the thing, is that I've like reinvented myself through all these different stages of the businesses I ran, that like At this point, like unnecessary, like what I'm doing now is like, I think what I wish I had been doing, like, but there was no real social media outlet kind of back in those days to do it. So it's like, while I just like ditched those and moved on to this, I don't ever see myself like fully ditching this massive community I built and all this stuff that like I'm sure it maybe could evolve into the future into something different. But kind of what I'm doing now is I just enjoy it, so I just do it day by day.
I love it. That's great. I was also wanted to touch a little bit, kind of we're talking about future stuff. How do you feel about artificial intelligence? Like,
I love it.
I mean,
implant the chip in my brain. Like, I'll be part robot. Do not care. Yeah. So I did one video where like I had it like fully design an invention for me. Like I started with ChatGPT of like, give me real world problems, and I'm like, okay, now solve that problem in an unnecessary way. Now
but it was the door handle.
The door handle,
okay.
yeah.
You got to explain that a little bit more.
So I did that. So I went through like all these problems, and then I finally had it give me an invention. Then I used Dolly to create the render. So it was a keychain that goes on your waist, and then it's like retractable, and then on the end of it is like almost like a 3M sticky, so that you pull it out, you can put it on the door. So if you don't want to touch the germs on the door handle, you can put it on and it sticks to it, and then you pop it off and it just hangs. I don't know. AI designed it. And it's like, it kind of hits it on the head. And I'm not sure, like I typed in the prompts, like solve this, like create the product, like unnecessary inventions from TikTok.
Okay.
So
it knew who you were.
It knew, I think it had enough data to like, because there were some other ideas that were pretty good. But yeah, but I think it's pretty sweet. I'm all in.
What's the most like satisfying part of the process for you? Is it the final finished video, or like is it making this weird invention work, like to actually function for the video? Or
I would say probably the finished video invention, everything, putting it out there and seeing if it hits or not. It's like, did people connect to this idea the way I thought that they were going to connect to it?
Yeah.
It's like, it's always like every single invention, almost every single one I post, someone comments like, oh my God, this is the best one yet. Like, so there's always like that one that somehow connects with a different person for some reason or other, that like this was a problem they had in their life. So it's always just fun to just see like the reaction and like the reach of like how far they go and what emotional response it gets from people. Because sometimes I was like, I don't want to build this anymore. I just want to put it out. Like,
I think it is interesting to which ones go viral. I feel like you were mentioning, before we started the podcast, that it's almost the ones you don't think are going to go viral are the ones that go viral.
Right. It's like if you put too much thought into it, it's like the ones that I'm like, okay, this is like a problem I have, it's going to kill it. Like it has all these details. It's like when you like add too many complex layers to it, then it like, and I'm posting, I'm like, this one, like I'm going to be on CNN. They're going to be like, this one's going to be crazy. And then it's like, I'm like, it's like, I know in the first like 10 minutes, I'm like, oh, this one didn't hit. Like it's not going to go into the algorithm.
Right.
And it's always the ones that like, you don't think too much and you just sort of just like, let the stupidity of it speak for itself rather than like having to explain it.
Right. The one I'm thinking of is the garden hose with an attachment that's a plastic thumb, so you don't actually have to get your real thumb wet. So you
it was actually silicone. It was an exact replica of my own thumb.
Oh. You casted your thumb.
Yeah, and that one's like, I think it's just like hit the redundancy on its head so perfectly that like the joke lands, like you don't even need the voiceover on for the joke to land. That like if in the first 3 seconds you don't get what the invention does, then like I feel like I didn't do it properly.
Yeah, that's 100%. I feel like that's almost a great advice for any product, any design. Right. Like you should design any nicely designed piece of furniture like that,
Yeah. And it's like when I'm working with brands for like, a brand deal, collaboration, invention, it's like they sometimes want to go so far into the complexity. I'm like, I have to be able to explain this in the first 5 seconds in one sentence. And I'm like, right now we can't. So let's dumb it down, and it's going to do way better than trying to lay too many layers to it that just don't make sense.
Yeah. Do you feel like I feel like you've pioneered this, I don't even know, it's like a niche, right? It's this design plus performance art niche. Do you have any kind of peers that you feel like you want to collaborate with, or do you feel like there's up and coming creators in this niche, or is it really? I feel like I can only think of a few people.
I did a video with Simone, so that was like kind of awesome. And I read her DM completely wrong, and I made the wrong product. She told me to make a fridge backpack, and I made a fidget backpack.
Oh my God.
That's where the fidget backpack came from?
With Simone, and and then so I like was sending her the video before I posted, and I like read the DM. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me! I made the wrong product. So then she loved it even more that like I just read it wrong. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll make a fidget spinner backpack, and
that's one of my favorites.
Because that one really has
it's
no
so
real.
ridiculous.
And who else? I don't know. I think well, there's a lot of people that do similar-ish stuff to me.
Yeah.
And so like whenever I do it, I always want them to like look like I maybe bought it at a store. Like there'll be still people that follow me, and I like, they maybe aren't watching my stories, and they watch like they see the 3D printers. They're like, wait, you make all of these? They like, I thought you just bought them and made the commercials.
Oh.
And so there's people like William Osmond, Michael Reeves, like on YouTube that like make similar stuff, but it's more like kind of robot heavy, and like you see the wires exposed. It's like I want everything to always be like this crisp, clean little package. So it'd be fun to like collaborate with someone like that that's like similar sphere, but like the other side of it, that like I don't need it to be the most Instagram model looking invention.
Right.
That it like is rough around the edges. You see why it doesn't work. That like I hide in the edit that it doesn't do what I say it does, but showing more of the side of like the behind the scenes of why it didn't work.
Yeah.
Beyond just like, coming up with the next invention, is there anything that's motivating you in terms of like you want to improve the storytelling or the actual design of the thing? Like, is there anything motivating that aspect?
Yeah, I think it's like I'm feeling, and that was like part of the reason why I'm getting this new studio, is that like I kind of felt like things were feeling very similar and all that stuff. And I guess I don't actively like plan like, all right, I'm gonna test, like I need to change it. Like I feel like I want to have like a new format, like the I invented format is sort of like my signature, but it's like I want to figure out what the next version of that, like, because that just sort of like randomly developed over time. Like it's not like
right.
It's sort of like the pieces all fell together, and then it became my signature thing. And that's like the past probably 2 years, that's like been the kind of cornerstone of like what the commercials are for him. So it's like figuring out what that next version of that kind of classic commercial I have, but it's not like me just like taking the hard 90 and like, okay, like now this is the format. It's like just like slowly over time, I think it's just like I make these small little tweaks as I go, and then eventually all of those tweaks, like, and I look back, I'm like, oh wait, I'm doing like something that's not what I was doing a year ago, and it just sort of like evolves on its own rather than trying to like actively change the path of it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed your longer form videos. I feel like that's the stuff that I usually will watch more. I mean, I'll see your stuff pop up in the feed, but the longer form I enjoy because it's you developing products. Like
Right.
It's more design related.
Right.
Um,
And it's difficult to balance the like YouTube personality of those videos to like do well on YouTube, and while still fitting into the nerdy ID side of things that like I sometimes will cut out a whole bunch of stuff because I just feel like the pacing is like super slow when I'm just sitting in Fusion 360 of like, okay, now this piece is like rotating around here, and then this flap is going to turn over this way. It's like the general YouTube audience, like, are they just going to like click out at that point because they're bored? So it's like it's a weird balance of like putting in the parts that I like, that like why I love designing products versus like having the pacing and the bigger personality that might work well for the platform.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like even I can relate to some of that in my stuff where it's like the VR videos I do, I cut out, 3 hours worth of work and slim it down to 60 seconds, I want to hear, maybe just to wrap that up, do you have any advice for people that want to get into more, I guess, content-driven design or meme design, or, there's a lot of value there just for traditional design and how you market stuff. Like, what's your advice for younger generations?
Yeah, my advice is always just start doing anything. Like, the fact that I just like randomly made the first invention, posted it on Reddit. I had no idea it was gonna blow up. I had no idea. Like, I was not planning on making it. This is my next venture. It's just that like nothing can happen if you aren't just doing something. And to me, there's like, people think that like, oh, I'm late, like I can't make it. It's like, I thought I was late 4 years ago, and now I'm like, I feel like now the content world hasn't even started yet. There's like still so much growth. So it's just like, because I don't care what people think of me. So it's like, I just like, nobody thinks about you as much as you think they do. Just put stuff out there and just keep going. It's like, I don't know. It's like, it's hard to, I guess it's hard when it's like personality traits that some people don't want to put themselves out there like that. But you just got to do it and not care about.
Was there a moment in the beginning where, like, do you feel like you've been riding sort of like an inspiration wave since the start, or have you had any moments of like, I'm losing it, like something doesn't go well, like one of your first like 10 inventions, like something doesn't go well and you're just like, you've lost the steam?
Yeah, I mean, that definitely has happened over the time. I mean, it's probably not healthy of how much like my mood will depend on how well an invention does. You're just like, it's like the ones that are like personal to me. I'm like, this one's gonna kill it, and then I'm like, it didn't kill it. No. I'm like, I should probably just delete my channels now. Like, nobody cares about me anymore, and all this. And then like the next week, I'm like, I am literally the best inventor that has ever existed in our generation. It's like, so it's difficult when your business is run on internet satisfaction and the algorithm. It's like, and that like, I'll post a video on Instagram. I'm like, oh, well, this one's a flop. And then I post on TikTok and it's like, it skyrockets out of nowhere. I'm like, well, I don't know how to feel now. It's like, is it good or is wild. It's so. Yeah.
So how do you push through that, like the lows?
I guess it'll be. It does reset me a little bit. Like I probably will like take a day off and just like, all right, I'd like, that one sucked. I'm just gonna chill, and then I'm like, it'll make me it'll make me think harder about the next one. That like, okay, why didn't that one work? And maybe like usually I like kind of have an idea of what the next one's gonna be, and it's like if one does do poorly, I'm like, all right, well, let me rethink what the next one's gonna be now, and like, is that the good follow up, or should I maybe go in a different direction for what I want to do next? So it can be difficult, but it like sucks when the highs are so good. And then you're like, I'm the best. You are the best kitchen sink designer.
Those millions of views goes to your head, I know for sure.
I obviously, we're an industrial design podcast. Like, I am just curious your thoughts on industrial design, because we're not always inventors. Like, sometimes what we're doing is like purely aesthetic or functional or whatever. I'm just curious about, like, do you have any thoughts about industrial design as a profession, as an industry?
Yeah, it's hard that I have such little viewpoint. I feel like this podcast is like my biggest like look into. It's like I have no idea like what the curriculum is like in school. It's like, it's hard when I've just been self-taught through YouTube videos, and it's like, that's why I was sort of talking earlier, like, do industrial designers not? It's like, I don't know. It's like, am I not? Are there like things you are supposed to do, and I'm not doing the things you're supposed to do as an industrial designer.
You got to sketch.
I'm like breaking the
pen and
rule.
paper,
Right.
first of all.
It's interesting being in the world, but it's like I also don't really know the full ins and outs of like, if you go to school for ID, it's like, what are your options after school of like what the different types of avenues you have. I have thought, I'm like, should I go to some classes and like actually learn about it? But do I have time? I don't know.
What do you think you would get out of that? Is there something about like the way that you design that you're unsatisfied with? Like,
I think it's more, so it's like kind of similar that like when I'm writing down invention ideas, like if I see someone do something in public that like I have never even thought about doing, opening a door that way or something, you know, it's like that I'll watch videos of people doing Fusion 360 tutorials just to see like what their workflow is. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that shortcut. I didn't even know that feature existed. You know, it's like, so now it's like, now I'm faster at doing Fusion because this person's workflow is different than my workflow. So I like am able to pick the things that will fit into my workflow. And that like, if there are things I'm doing that I could be more efficient at, if I knew the like textbook way that I maybe should be approaching the process.
I honestly, you know what? I think if you studied industrial design more, I think you'd be less efficient because you would cover the details way more. It would slow you down.
I'm like,
time.
yeah, good enough. All right, send it to the printers, and we'll.
I can imagine you in your first day of class, and the professor's like, all right, we'll choose one project to work on for 12 weeks, and you're just like, oh, I'm already done, man.
Right,
right here.
Right. that would be difficult for me probably.
Well, Matty, I mean, we both admire your work a lot. It's great to have you on the podcast. I don't know, we have any last questions for you, or?
I don't know. What do you get out of listening to our podcast? Like, is it just good background noise? Is it motivating? I'm just like so curious.
Yeah, I don't know. It's. I mean, I'm like, why is there a new episode this week? It's like
It's been 7 days.
I guess because I have such a lack of insight into the ID world, and I feel like there's not a ton of ID podcasts. I've tried to look for more, and there's just not. So it's like I'm getting the like college classroom chat that you would be having waiting for the class to get started.
Okay, yeah.
Without it's like I've never had that like being in a room with a bunch of industrial designers all talking about the nuance of a knob, and it's like you could sit there and I'm eavesdropping on the conversation of the two designers right next to me that are talking about the knob.
Nice. Well, Matty, thanks again. It's been wonderful chatting with you, and we appreciate you coming on the pod. I know that our listeners appreciate it as well. Of course, you all can follow Matty at Unnecessary Inventions. On pretty much everything.
Everything.
And yeah, as always, I'm Nick.
I'm James.
And I'm Matty.
Peace.
Later.